good thing?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no
I don't
idea.
know either. Wow. Well, we'll see what feedback we get. Maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, it wasn't Big Bang?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But that would
All
be a
right.
good one, too.
That wouldn't be bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on the context, yeah.
But yes, today's show is a special show. If I sound a little out of it, you know what's funny is I was a little out of it when I did my last show with Leslie because I took this drug for my back. And when I interviewed her, I was pretty mellow, which is probably good because I was very excited to do that interview. And I might have stumbled over myself had I not been medicated because I would have been so excited. But this time, I'm just feeling like something's coming on, so I'm taking it easy. So if I sound a little slowed down or something, that is why. But this is a really important show because I have this girl on the show who I really like.
Wow, does Karen know you like her?
Yes, because it's Karen.
That's good.
Yeah. So
right.
she, of course, is the new owner of the UFO Congress. So I guess people will get to know her, and then we'll get to talk about the conference and some of the speakers, and it's going to be lots of fun.
Awesome. Well, that must have been a fun show to do.
We haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it yet?
No.
I will rephrase that. Well, that'll be a fun show to do.
Yeah, it will be. So we'll do that here in just a moment. But before that, of course, we have you. Oh, and I should mention, of course, we're going to mention this throughout the show, that another reason it's important we do this show now is because, Saturday is the last day for discounted tickets, so the tickets go up to the door cost, which is much more expensive, coming up here very soon. So people need to get their tickets ASAP in order to get the major discount you get when you get the early registration.
Get your tickets now.
Exactly. So, but first, you and I, of course, always talk UFO news, and let's check out what's in the news. What do you got for me, buddy?
Well, it's not really UFOs. Well, in a way, I guess it is. But it's I want to talk about fireballs because I don't know if anyone has noticed, but lately, actually starting in December, there's been a lot of fireballs reported all over the place. In the United States, especially. Going back, I know New Hampshire, there was one that my son actually saw back in December at some point. And then since the first of the year, there's been a ton of them all over the place. And there's the beauty of the dash cam is a lot of these things are filmed on dash cam. But we're talking Michigan, there was a sonic boom. That was on January 17th when that streaked across the sky. There was one in Alberta. That went on January 18th. There's a lot of great also dash cam video of that you can find on the internet. And January 5th, January 1st, there was a daytime one. And that was actually over in the UK. And I really, I got to tell you, I had a UFO sighting that I thought was, amazing, unexplainable and all that. But the most dramatic sighting I ever had in my life was a fireball. And because I have to explain this because I've never heard anyone talk about one that appeared like this one did. I was on, ironically, I was in the hot tub in the back of my house, which was the same when I had a sighting.
That's pretty common.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, the sighting I had in Monterey, Carmel Valley, California, was also in a hot tub, the UFO sighting. But I was in the sighting, and it was a common occurrence with the gal I was with at the time. And we were out having drinks, and not drunk, but just having drinks in the hot tub. And all of a sudden, this thing came over that was huge. I'm talking almost the size of a Frisbee if you held it out at arm's length.
Wow.
coming over my head. And you know what the strange thing was? It was mostly perfectly round. It was sparking. It was orange, and it was turning, and I could see cracks in it. That's how clear I saw this and how much time I had to look.
That is amazing.
Never saw anything. I mean, I said to the gal I was with, I said, look. I said, look 3 times by the time she turned her head, and she finally saw it. But it was such an amazing thing. And the next day, I was telling my friends and everything. I said, I couldn't believe what I saw. Someone said that on the news that a meteor landed in China. I was right next to the Atlantic Ocean. I thought for sure it was going to drop in the ocean not too far from my house. It looked like it was just,
So how long did you see it? Did you see it going through the sky quite a bit? And how did you lose sight of it?
No, actually, the hot tub was in the back of my house. It flew over the top of my house. And it was in the sky enough for me to say, look 3 times, and someone still saw it. So I guess, I saw it for about 3 seconds, but it was totally the most amazing
And you
thing
lost
I've
sight
ever
because
seen.
it went behind the house?
I lost sight because it went over the horizon by toward the ocean.
Huh.
I was 3 miles from the ocean. And
that's
so
crazy.
I called the Air Force, the local Air Force, Pease Air Force Base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I said, hey, this thing just flew over. I didn't even know what it was, but I guess I'm sounding pretty excited about it because it really was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Incredible, and that was the fireball.
That was a fireball. That's what I've been told by people I've talked to about it.
Mm-hmm. Cracks in it.
The ones that people are seeing seem a lot smaller, and what is unusual about mine, I didn't see any bright streak behind it. And that's what you see in all these fireballs.
Yeah, see, now I've seen a really cool fireball, and it was in the news big time because it was seen in Arizona and California and all the surrounding states. And so it was a big news story, and it was amazing. It lit up the sky like it was daylight, and as it flashed, as it fell apart and sparked and everything. And but it doesn't sound as cool as your sighting. Now, you think it might have been the object that landed in China?
Well, I'm only speculating on that. I have no idea. Matter of fact, it seems to me that it would land in the ocean. It just happened to be that it was, reported that one at about the same time landed in China. Within I don't know what the time range was, but it looked almost like orange lava. That's another way I could say it was like an orangey look. But the sparks flying off of it, the cracks, everything was just so weird.
It is incredible. And of course, people have been talking about this lately. In fact, I was on a radio show recently and they asked me about that. And they seem to think there is maybe something more behind these fireballs. I don't know. Of course, there's a lot of space junk out there, and there's a lot of stuff that enters our atmosphere. And like what I saw was probably some kind of space junk breaking up, and that's what they predicted. But what you saw, I don't know. And the thing with space junk is that it's not as usual. It's not usually as tough as, let's say, an asteroid, a piece of rock coming in. So it dissolves, even though it looks spectacular. But what you saw sounds humongous.
It seemed, like I said, I'm not exaggerating about the size of what I was seeing. It was huge. It was huge.
Wow, that is an extraordinary sighting.
Why was it round? I mean, it was round, just round as round could be.
You need to spend more time in your hot tub.
I don't have one now.
Oh, you need to get one. See, we have a hot tub, and it's funny because I was telling Karen this not long ago when we were hanging out there looking at the stars that, I used to get a lot of reports, especially in Colorado and rural areas, because people have hot tubs out there, and they go out there, and, if you're in a rural area, you've got a spectacular view of the sky, and that's why they like to hang out in a hot tub that's, away from the home, so they can just look at the amazing stars while they're relaxing in their hot tub in the evenings. And we get all kinds of reports of stuff. And I do recommend people go get this software. I know John Greenwald has it at blackvault.com, And we've written about it too, this UFO tracking software. You can go to openminds.tv and Google or search and you'll find it. But it's free software to download that this guy made. I think he lived in the UK. And it turns your computer into kind of a web anomaly tracker, let's say. So what you do is you set up a camera, connect it to your computer, so you could use a webcam or whatever you want. And then you point it out your window. And even within the software, let's say you have a tree. And you don't want to get that because every time it moves, it would activate and record. So you just block off the part of your sky you want it to monitor. And then if anything flies in that area, it will record a video of it. And so then you can track and capture these kind of things in the sky.
Wow.
But yeah, that's pretty crazy, your sighting. But yeah, a lot more. So I don't know if we have a ton. We have more and more all the time of these cameras on vehicles. I know in Russia it was big because of insurance purposes.
Yeah, they have to have them. You have to have them there.
You have to?
You have to have them for some insurance companies, or they won't insure you.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And then, so people have been doing it here more often too for similar purposes. Not that it's required out here that I've ever heard of, but so maybe that's why we're just recording the fireballs more. I don't know. I would have to talk. It would be an interesting question to ask an astronomer. Are we getting more fireballs? Is it due to space junk, or is this just perceived? Is it just because we're getting videos more often that we think there's more? That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good question, one I have not thought of actually. But they're just evasive as a UFO. They're just there 1 second, they're gone.
Yeah.
So the only way to catch them. And I'm wondering if there's any UFO dash cam video out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I haven't seen anything personally that I can think of, and I don't remember a story. Do you that we've talked about?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, I guess.
No, something about I think a cam in the woods, a motion activated cam, but that's about it. That's all I've ever heard. Yeah.
So fireballs. Did you have anything more to say about that?
No, I'm pretty fireballed out right now.
Well, that's incredible sighting. So I did want to mention this story that we have at Open Minds, and I think it's great. It's written by Mary Cisneros. She is the acting state director in Montana for the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. And so she wrote about Montana and UFOs, in particular military, and it's really, she kind of covers a couple of the big sightings there in Montana, and then she writes about this really interesting sighting that this guy in the Army came back and told her, or was in their files, this guy who served in Afghanistan. And while he was out on patrol, they saw this light in the sky that they watched for a while. They said it was huge. He said that he and all of his colleagues there, the fellow soldiers, could see it. There was an indication when they called back to their boss, I think it said he was a captain, that he could see it as well, and he told them to ignore it and keep their head on their task at hand. And so that was interesting. She did note a couple of things that she wants to follow up on. So, for instance, he said everybody saw it, but then he also said they could only see it with their night vision. So she's wondering, did everybody have night vision? And I think they do all have night vision out there.
I'm sure if they were out at night and traveling at night, I'm sure they probably are all equipped with that, I would think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they do, because I think, these days, night missions, it's lights off, and all they use is their night vision, which makes them even more dangerous. Think of that. I mean, the technology, the advantages are incredible. You have this whole,
Just like working in daylight. I mean, not exactly working, but,
Well, these guys popping up on you, and you don't know they're there at all because there's no lights or anything. So, and that's something, of course, that we do at the UFO Congress. Is Ben Hansen is there, and we do this night sky watch, and he's got his different night vision there for people to kind of play with, to try out. And I'm sure you've tried some of this night vision.
I did it with Ben out there, yes.
And it's amazing. I mean, you can see everything.
I wonder if you're seeing, it's really hard to tell. You're seeing part of the spectrum that we normally don't see as through the human eye. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there's an explanation, because a lot of people are like Charles Lemereau that I had on my show, and you had on your show before, seeing all those UFOs through infrared, it makes me wonder if it's a possibility if there's something out there all the time, not necessarily unexplainable, but explainable, that just is moving around, some type of, I don't know.
Maybe that's what people have been talking about for quite some time, is that can they be emitting some sort of light that is something that's not visible to the naked eye. And so people try night vision to catch, like you said, wavelengths that are not visible to the naked eye, and they feel like they're capturing stuff. And so it's possible, who knows? What's cool is, I know this from Goldwater, because of we get so many UFO reports of flares when they're dropping them out there, and they do fly when lights off when they're doing the maneuvers where they're dropping the flares. That's why you don't see any planes dropping them, but they do have IR lights on. So the only way you can see those planes is through night vision goggles. But so they can see each other, basically. Exactly, and so they can see each other. So the troops on the ground can see them, but enemies can't see them unless they also have IR. But
wow, that's amazing! I never heard of that.
Yeah.
So this Marie Cisneros article. Thank you. Her article, she includes in that article the Nick Mariana footage, which I think is one of the best, films of a UFO. This happened in 1950. It's the one that goes by the tower. I think it was a water tower or something.
Yeah.
A great flick.
So this guy was, I think, a teacher and a football coach, and he was when he saw that and got a video, and it's one of the best videos out there. I know Joan Bird wrote a lot about this case in her book. She's a Dr. Right. Joan Bird, and she's got a great book on Montana UFOs. But people can see the video on this story too, because it is a pretty interesting video. Did
you just say Montana? I think you did.
Perhaps. It's entirely possible.
You got to get some rest after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Montana. That's how they say it out there.
Yeah. To become a dental floss tycoon, you better Google that.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what I'm saying. So
dental
I will leave that to the listener tycoon. To Google it. Yeah.
Okay.
Frank Zappa, a long time ago.
Huh, interesting.
It's a very noted song.
Oh, okay. I'll have to take your word for it. I guess it's before my time, likely.
Yes, say so.
Yeah. So, did you have any other stories?
I really do not. I am excited to hear more about your upcoming event. I'm really excited that I will be out there and seeing everyone. And if anyone listens to this show and they'd like to meet me, I would love to meet you as well. And I'll be around when I'm not working like a dog for the show.
Mm-hmm. We will have you at work. But, and so people know, of course, OpenMinds.tv, you can hear some of these stories in our news feed. I do include the Fireball stories because, just in case listeners have seen something and they're like, hey, I saw something crazy last night. Well, they can check our news and see if, it was a fireball. So we have a story from the 19th, just the other day, from the Fort Saskatchewan Record. That was a fireball in Alberta. let's see, we have another one down here in Ohio, and we including a famous, I guess, meteor that had made a lot of news and is somehow, important in their history. So a few of those fireball stories you'll see there. And then a couple other stories. There's an article with a NASA astronaut, Jack Fisher, who fly in the ISS, and they asked him about UFOs and aliens. And, like a lot of astronauts, he's pretty cool about it. He's like, I don't know if they're visiting, but essentially he believes, there's got to be alien life out there. I think that's how most people feel.
I do want to say something about that article real quickly. I did notice in there, he said, boy, I'd love to see one. If I did see one, I would take a picture and then I'd be rich.
Yeah. It's so funny that he says that because so many people feel that way. I don't know about you, but we had so many people contacting us with pictures or footage, allegedly, and they want to sell it. And
they'll say,
really unfortunate.
Can I make a lot of money? I've gotten those emails. This
and I tell them, no,
fortune.
You can't make a lot of money, and I'm not going to pay you nothing, but I'll look at it if you want. And then sometimes they get upset. Of course, I say it more nice than that. But and then they get upset because they're like, oh, you just don't, nobody wants to pay. I'm just going to go to the news. And it's like, okay, go to the news. And hopefully the news pays for it and it is something spectacular. And then I can write about it and everybody will love it. But unfortunately, no, I'm not going to pay you for any pictures or videos because 99% of the pictures and videos I see turn out to be something mundane. Not always. In fact, you and I have talked about a couple stories that listeners or readers have submitted that I don't know that we've resolved yet, but but I'm not gonna pay you to look at that. That's come on, guys. So
you'd have to run it by Mark D'Antonio first.
Yeah, that too. And I always have him look at it. Yeah. He does. He's kind of a jerk that way, but at least then we find out.
We love him.
Yeah. So sorry, Mr. Astronaut Jack Fisher. Actually, if it's footage that came from an astronaut, it might make him a few bucks.
That's true. Yeah, it would help a little, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So although astronauts, I think, do pretty well financially.
They really have to do well. I mean, you're right.
They're busy
in so many different ways.
They work
always.
hard. Oh, my gosh. Mm-hmm. The effort it takes to be an astronaut. So, of course, I'm a huge fan of astronauts. They are the celebrities and superstars to me. And a little bit of preview, I'll have some more interviews with astronauts coming up in the next few weeks and months related to some TV shows that are going to be coming out, and I'll be able to do some interviews as promotions. So you'll hear more about that. But otherwise, we're out of time. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Martin.
Always a pleasure.
And right after this break, we'll be back with Karen Brard, the illustrious owner of the UFO Congress, a UFO entrepreneur. And I've talked about her several times, but this is the first time for you all to meet her, at least meet her voice on the show. It is Karen. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am good. So, the UFO Congress is coming up, and we are going loco.
Oh, yes. It's a little bit crazy around here, but I'm very, very excited.
And what are you excited about?
Well, I mean, I'm just kind of excited just to see how it goes for my first time running this thing. But I'm pretty sure with your help that we're going to do a great job. But I'm excited to meet some of the people that I haven't gotten a chance to meet in my 8 years of studying the UFO phenomenon. People like Bill Burns and Dean Alioto and Susie Hansen, Robbie Graham, Nancy Duterte, Susan Palmer. I mean, there's just so many people that I haven't met before, so I'm excited about that. Hakdan Octagon.
Yeah.
And also to see some of my good friends that I haven't seen in a while. So
so we'll talk about all of those people. Some of those names are some of our speakers, and we'll talk about all of those people in a moment. But first, why is it that you bought the UFO Congress?
I know there's a right answer and a wrong answer.
No, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
You could say whatever.
It just kind of fell into our laps. The owner from Open Minds was thinking about selling, and one of the other buyers didn't quite work out. So I thought, I think I can do this, and that way we can work together and make sure this continues to run in a way that we think is the best way to have it run and to continue. And it's worked out pretty well, I think, and we get to work together every day, and makes me very happy.
It's funny because there are several times throughout my, for lack of a better term, UFO career, where I felt just as I thought I was getting out, they pulled me back in. And that was another one of the moments, but it was kind of a no-brainer in that really I think that even though it was a lot of money, it was, given the numbers, viable. It's something that makes money, and something, where we can apply some of our ideas to make it more financially successful, but also a better experience. For example, the T-shirt. So one thing we've been really busy with is providing many more products than we have in the past, and that includes T-shirts and mugs, and so that's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And we're adding hats this year. So for those of you who like to wear caps, we're going to have some of those available at the Congress, and then also on the website store eventually. And just a few more products, some UFO tops that we've added, some cute little toys that a new developer is in progress of making those, and he's also going to be at the Congress as a vendor, so you'll be able to check those out. We're just trying to implement some new ideas and new products, new books.
But it's a fun part of it, right? Because, I think that we know more so what our audience likes. So we know, like, the phrases they like to use, stuff like that. So we know the type of product. We probably won't have everything that we would wish we could have at the conference, but we'll have a lot more than that's ever been there before. But how's that been? I mean, that's been fun, right? Working with Eric, our great graphic designer, on T-shirt ideas.
Yes, that's a lot of fun. Looking at the new designs, thinking of new products new graphics that we can put on our T-shirts. So I think everyone's going to be pretty happy with our new designs this year. One of them was based on, our main theme was based on the Phoenix. So we're going to have a lot of neat things based on that.
That's a good one, too. So the Phoenix, people have probably, most of the listeners, I'd imagine, have seen the logo on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere. Maybe not. If you haven't, check it out. The artwork's really cool. But why did you choose the Phoenix?
Well, actually, it also is linked to another UFO person. I've been kind of in contact with Ken Peterson, who was one of the witnesses of the Travis Walton episode. And he is really interested in synchronicities. And he has told me one synchronicity involves Phoenix. And after I read that, I thought, well, that's kind of neat because Phoenix means like new beginnings. And this is a new beginning for this conference. Plus, it happens in Phoenix. So I thought that would be a good theme for this year. So we suggested that to our artist and let him go for it. And I think he came up with a really cool design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our artist, Eric McFarlane, is awesome. So you'll see more of his stuff. Of course, you see it all the time. Our whole website at openminds.tv is from him, and he's the one who created it. So all of the artwork is Eric, and Eric is awesome. So getting on to, I guess, the speakers. Let's move on to that. Oh, I guess my last question is it kind of freaky? Are you a little bit freaked out? Because, I mean, you've helped at the conference before, so you're not unfamiliar with it. You've done a lot of behind the scenes and hung out with me in the last few years. But being upfront and being more responsible for its outcome.
I'm trying not to think about that too much because if I did, I think I would get really scared. But I'm just kind of, writing things down, plugging away, and as long as I follow my schedule and get everything done, I'm going to be fine and not dwell too much about things that might happen. So,
well, we're on track, luckily. Yeah, for everybody. I mean, I've been doing this for a few years, and we're totally on track.
And I think it helps. I think I would be more nervous if I hadn't already run the Travis Walton Skyfire Summit, and I got that under my belt. So I'm not quite as nervous, I think.
Let's talk about that first, because this is an instance where you did become really a UFO investigator with the Travis Walton Conference. You hunted down some of the people involved with that case that no one's ever heard from before. Mm-hmm. And so tell us about that process and how then a couple of these people are going to be part of the conference issue, Congress this year.
Sure. Yeah. For the Travis Walton Conference, I was hoping to get as many people that I could find to be present at the conference, since it was the 40th anniversary. So, I was contacting the witnesses and, the other loggers. And I contacted the sheriff, but who has unfortunately passed away this past year, Gillespie.
I'm going to pause you for just a sec, just to let the listeners know too. Of course, I've talked about it. Just to make sure they understand this, though, is that Travis had a 40th anniversary event out there in Heber, near where the event took place last November. Super cold, and you ran that for him. Just so people understand that.
Yes. And I was reading as many articles as I could find just to see if I could find any other people. And, one person who kept coming up was Officer Officer Chuck Ellison. He was one of the officers that was first there on the scene when it happened. So I thought, well, maybe I can find this man. So I started doing some research, making some phone calls, got in touch with Sheriff Gillespie, and he, had an old number, and he said actually Chuck had contacted him not too long ago. So I called him up, and lo and behold, he was there, and he answered, and he talked to me, and he was very excited about coming to the conference, and all these years, he says that he still believes those guys, that they were very believable, and they were very frightened.
Ooh, don't tell him everything that he's going to say.
Well, I'm just going to say that he does believe it, and it was a really amazing story that he and his wife and family were actually a part of, because at the time the sheriff's office was actually the house, so all the phone calls would come to the house. So they said they didn't get much sleep that first.
Okay.
This days.
Brings up a couple of questions. First of all, Travis, when Chuck Ellison, the officer, told you that he believed what the guys had to say, but did you tell Travis that before the conference?
I don't think we actually had a conversation about it. That we were so busy that we never really talked about it.
I don't think you did, and that's what was interesting, is you didn't tell him, nor did he ask, because I remember Travis saying before we went on stage, not that he was even nervous about it, at least outwardly, but Travis is a mellow dude, so it's hard to say. But he had no idea what Chuck Ellison was going to say.
Right. And they had never met each other because, of course, Chuck was there. He met all the other loggers, but Travis was gone. So they actually never met until the 40th anniversary conference. So that was a very
Here's the second question.
Sure.
You had the sheriff, Gillespie. Why didn't you bring him to the conference?
He just was on oxygen and just wasn't well enough to travel. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple months afterward. And I had been in contact with his wife not too long ago, and she sent me a very nice email just saying what a neat part of their lives that was. And it was very interesting, and that she wanted us to send her any information that we had about that and some DVDs about the conference. So,
oh, great.
So I'm going to do that. So
I didn't even realize that. And Gillespie, of course, is the guy. He was the sheriff. He was the one that
played by the famous actor.
Oh, what is that
James Gardner.
James Gardner.
James Gardner. Yeah.
Yeah, I love James Gardner. I grew up watching his stuff. I loved him.
Yeah.
So that was Gillespie. did you get a sense of how Gillespie felt about Travis's case when you talked to him?
Yeah, he was very open-minded. He, felt like they were telling the truth. And, it was kind of a difficult situation for him and the town because they got so much attention. But, and I just want to read something from the letter that I had from Mrs. Gillespie, but because she said that once before they were married in about 1958, that Marlin witnessed a bright, unexplainable light one night between Holbrook and Snowflake, and another officer saw it too. So he himself had seen a UFO. So
that's really interesting. And as far as I know, and of course, any listeners know differently, you can let me know. But I think you're probably one of the last people to talk to Gillespie, if not the last. And it goes a long way that when you spoke to him, he spoke as if he believed Travis and the guys, and that he was very positive about this case because, of course, there's a lot of rumor and speculation going on that Gillespie had busted him for drugs or knew this was all drug-related or something like that. But not necessarily. When he passed, or at least just before he passed, he thought these guys were telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of funny because it's weird because I don't know. I always feel weird pushing these alien abduction stories because that's just weird. I mean, Travis's experience is so weird, but it is a very credible. I said weird about 20 times there. It's very credible, and for all of these
especially when we have these witnesses who tell this to this day are still affected by this. It's still affected their lives, and especially like Ken Peterson. Still is researching this and still trying to find out what happened to him after 40 years. So very believable case. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Chuck again because he's a real sweetheart.
Yeah, cool guy. And so also Travis's brother. Now, as far as I know, I don't think he's ever spoken at a conference prior to the 40th anniversary deal you put together.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then this one. I felt that his input at that conference was amazing, just like Chuck Ellison's. It was incredible to get a sense of what the family's lives were like while Travis was gone. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it put on a very personal spin on the story where we don't always maybe think about, those kind of details. We think about the facts, but we don't think about, well, how did the family react to it? And then it kind of brings it more home to you, too, because you kind of put yourself in that position. What would I have done? And that's what made it a real captivating story, I think.
You know what else was really cool? There was a really cool moment. So Chuck and Don did not really know each other, the two that are speaking. Don's Travis's brother, Chuck Ellison, of course, the first police officer on the scene. But during the lecture, we also had Dr. Leo Sprinkle on hand. He was one of the first investigators of the case. And Leo speaks, he's a professor. He was a professor of psychology. And he was telling the facts, laying out the facts and what they had discovered. And there was a point where, he was saying that, at least for him, he didn't see any of the markers of these guys lying, something along those lines. And Chuck reached over and patted on Don's knee. And it was kind of neat because then they both looked at each other and smiled, almost like, more verification for all of this. And I don't know. There's nothing like meeting these people to understand how they operate and whether or not they're being deceitful. And I just don't get the sense that with either of these guys, especially, they would really give a damn whatever anybody thinks. So there's no reason. Like they're those type of people where, kind of like Bigelow the other day on 60 Minutes. I don't care what you think. I'm old enough where I'm the authority on my life, and here's the way it went. Believe it or not.
Right. Yeah, they're just very compassionate people and very believable. And I think anyone who comes to see this, and I hope you guys all will see that and appreciate Chuck and Don as much as we do.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're a skeptic, and we've spent so much time with Travis now, and it's just I've never gotten a sense. Of course, and listeners know. I mean, I don't like it when people lie to me or I get deceived, and I just have not had that sense at all.
Right. He has not changed his story. He's the same old Travis, always. The same old Travis who locks his keys in the car almost regularly, but yeah. The same Travis.
The inside Travis losing his keys, Travis, when it comes to his schedule, oh my gosh, he's all over the place. But yep, that's our buddy Travis. So let's get into some more of the speakers.
Sure.
One that people probably don't know as well, but and it's always a risk, but it's kind of a fun risk to bring people that people don't know as well, is all the way from New Zealand, Susie Hansen. Who is she, and why should people want to be excited to hear her?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Yes, so Susie's from New Zealand, and she is a contactee, she feels like, from age 8. But in addition to that, she sort of started up a MUFON in her country. It's called UFOCUS New Zealand. And they do the same kind of things that MUFON does. They investigate sightings and whatnot. And she also lobbied her country's chief of defense forces in 2009 and 10 for them to release their UFO files, which they did. So she's been, very busy in her country when it comes to UFOs. And she does also, she was a school teacher and she was a counselor, and that led to her doing abductee research. And she's also working here with someone over here in the United States, Dr. Rudy Shield, who's an astronomer, a Harvard-trained astronomer. And they're kind of putting together some theories about how communication takes place between extraterrestrials and humans, and it's in a very scientific, technological way, which is about all I can really say right now because I'm not really up to date on the specifics, but it's very technical and being backed by someone in the sciences.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting. We have a couple of ET communication and abduction kind of related topics that actually are incorporating science, surprisingly. Because how do those two go together? And I think that's a great question. What science is there to this? But she's actually tackling that. And one of the movies that we've got from Carolyn Corey, I've had her on the show about ET communication, also tackles that. So this is going to be interesting. Some science when it comes to the abduction phenomena, which is not common. So something new and different for people. And this is one of them, too, where we felt a little more comfortable taking the risk because everybody who's seen her talk absolutely has loved it.
Correct. Yeah. Kathleen Martin, Stanton Friedman, they all vouch for her believability and professionalism. So we didn't have any problems scheduling her for the
Before
conference.
we get into some of the other people, that are more well-known, we'll kind of cover some of the others that we have, like Bryce Zabel, who's also another friend of ours who we get to meet occasionally, a Hollywood guy. In fact, he was in charge of the TV Academy Awards when 9/11 occurred, and he made the call to delay the awards. He always talks about that, but an amazing background. He worked for CNN as a correspondent, a bunch of other things in the media, and now he's been working in Hollywood for years, where he's made several UFO movies because he's really into that.
And Dark Skies, the TV series.
Yeah, and Dark Skies, the TV series, which was kind of, I think, NBC's answer to X-Files, but he incorporated MJ-12 and more of the actual mythology out there related to UFO research. So he's going to be a lot of fun. He's going to review all of that, but kind of and vent frustration as someone who follows this field very closely and kind of talking about the state of affairs. Mm-hmm. So, and his new movie's coming out.
That's right.
Or that he's working on UFO related. One on Betty and Barney Hill and one on Stanton Friedman and Don Schmidt. So that's going to be fun.
And Bob Gross is someone that not a lot of people might know, and he's going to reveal some interesting theories about the Kecksburg case.
Yeah. I think that personally, so far, he's got the best theory related to Kecksburg, a very famous UFO sighting. And so I think he's going to be great to hear. What's cool is he is a PhD. He's a scientist, a writer, a lecturer, an educator. He's done a lot of stuff. He's a very serious person with a lot of credibility. And although he seems to have an answer that is not ET related to Kecksburg, he is a MUFON investigator and everything. He is a UFO researcher. So he's really into the topic and does believe there's something to it. And he's going to talk along those lines as well.
And he has a very nice smile, so I think he's going to be very entertaining.
A nice smile, huh?
Yeah, look at him.
Why are you looking at his smile?
Well, he's right there in front of me. I mean, on the computer screen, and I just thought the listeners would like to know that. I'm getting a jealous look across the
Dr.
desk.
Bob Gross. Nancy Dutertre. And I can't wait to ask her how to properly say her name. Tertre.
I think it's
is how it
Dutertre.
looks. Huh?
Dutertre.
Dutertre. I don't know. It's French, but if you say it correctly, it's probably beautiful.
Yes.
And that's why I hate not saying it correctly, because I know I'm not doing it justice. But yeah, she's going to have a very interesting talk. But we'll get more into that actually after the break, because we have to take a quick break and then we'll talk some more. So those of you listening on the podcast will hear some music, a short musical interlude. The rest of you on KGRA will hear some commercials. And then after that, we'll be right back with Karen Brard, the owner of the International UFO Congress. And actually, the corporation, the company that she put together is out of this world.
His boss.
Yeah, we have my new boss, Karen, here. And we were just talking about Nancy Dutertre.
Close, honey. Nancy Dutertre, the skeptical psychic. That is her website.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she is a contactee, and she also is a remote viewer. And she is going to let us know all about.
And I think she was a lawyer. But it is, she was an attorney. But it is interesting, and that's what she's going to talk about, that so many people who claim to be able to remote view, if that's even possible, which it may be, I don't know, talk about remote viewing ETs or looking for remote viewing UFOs and seeing extraterrestrials. And that's what she's going to be talking about, which is pretty interesting stuff. We've had Jim Marsh many, many years ago, who unfortunately has since passed, come to the conference to speak on that topic. We also have Joe McMonagle, one of the main military remote viewers, talk about it. But she's actually remote viewed, and she's done a lot of this sort of work. So.
Yes, she's written 5 books. She's multilingual, and that's what led her to study alien languages, including extraterrestrial languages. So she believes that she's figured out the linguistics of alien ET language. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting.
So another one, and I don't know why this I'm just randomly picking these, so it's not like I'm doing this on purpose, but Ann Druffel is someone that we've wanted to have at the conference for a while. And I know you keep telling me, get Ann Druffel. Mm-hmm. But Ann Druffel, of course, is older. And so she's been having, she can't travel and stuff. So we got the next best thing.
Yes, Alice Druffel, her daughter, who grew up with her mother studying UFOs. So ever since she was a child, she's been around this subject. So she is going to come and present some of her mom's cases, some of things, some insider information that we don't know about, and have her opinion on it as well as her mother's. So, and I think that will be very interesting, because it could be the last time that we're going to be able to get this close to her as far as being a presenter.
Yeah, well, Alice Druffel does lectures on other topics, the environment and stuff. So she knows how to put them together and public. She's not afraid of public speaking. So I'm excited about this because especially because of the potential of her picking up her mom's legacy.
Right.
Which would be a lot of fun and interesting. And, Anne Truffle, why do you feel she's so important?
Well, I mean, she's written a lot of books. She was very busy and worked with MUFON in LA. She's just had a long career in the UFO field. And I just felt like that the people now might not have heard of her because she's been not as active in the last years, that they need to look at her work. And, some of her books need to be brought back out to be read. I read the Tahunga Canyon incident. And I thought that was very interesting, very much in common with the other group abduction cases that happened in the 70s. The Allagash, Travis Walton. There's another one on the East Coast that happened at a summer camp. And I don't have the name of it right on my tip of my tongue. But so I was very interested in those group abduction stories. So, and I just really feel like she's a very good researcher, very scientific researcher. And I've just wanted her research to be shared with the Congress.
And, we've already talked about quite a few women at the conference, and I have always tried as much influence as I have. Even in the past, I didn't have all the say on who spoke, and now I certainly have less, now that you're my new boss. But do you think women have a different view of this topic overall?
I mean, well, of course, everyone has their own individual perspective. And I think women might have more of the emotional, more maybe pulled toward the emotional side of the subject, when it comes to like abductees, because we have Yvonne Smith, we have Susie Hansen, Nancy. It just kind of seems like they more lean to that. And but I think as time goes by, women will get more into the sciences, just like they have in all the other fields. So, I mean, we do have not at this conference, but we had her in the past. Linda Zimmerman. We've got Jennifer Stein, who is doing the crop circles and looking at it
that's another
in a scientific way.
Everybody who's seen that loved it. The crop circle talk. I haven't seen it yet, but Jennifer Stein will be doing that. But I would also argue that even though they have more of an interest in the emotional side, I would argue, before I know what some people think, oh, yeah, women are more emotional. No, I would argue actually that men are less in touch with their emotions. And even if men don't want to deal with their emotions as much and run from it. So that would be my argument before anybody says, oh, we're trying to say women are more emotional. I don't feel that way.
I think we just express it more, and we're more willing to admit to that part of our life.
Because a guy road raging or getting teed off, that's being emotional. That's an emotional response. But another person, so I'm going to mention Octagon for just a second. Not that he's small potatoes at all. He's awesome. It's just I know Karen hasn't met him or seen as much about him.
What a cool name.
I know, he has a cool name. And he is a serious UFO researcher in Turkey. And if you know him, you'll know that was a little pun joke that I made there, because he runs the Sirius UFO Center in Turkey. And they've done some amazing stuff. They've got great cases. He's on the news constantly. He's like Turkey's go-to guy. And he's been able to even get in the news challenging their science institutions and stuff like that. So Octon is cool. We haven't had him. Well, I don't think we've had him at the Congress since the Open Minds that had it. So
he's a serious researcher of Sirius? Is that what you're trying to say there, honey?
People got the joke. That was kind of the joke. But so he's going to be great. But the other person I wanted to talk about and have you talk about, because you made this happen too, is Alan Holt. I don't think he's ever had a lecture before, even though he's been kind of secretly in the background. Tell us about Alan.
Okay. Yes, Alan was a person that I met, funny story. right in the beginning, back in 2011, when I first learned about UFO conferences, I think I went to 6 conferences that year. Anyway, I got off the plane in LA for the MUFON conference, I believe. And I was waiting at the bus stop, and a man said, Are you going to the UFO conference? And I couldn't believe that somebody would actually realize that I was going to UFO conference. And I was like, yes. And it happened to be Alan Holt. And he continued to tell me, yes, that he works for NASA and he's a scientist. And I was really stunned that he was interested in UFOs. So we've kept in touch over the last, 7 or 8 years now. And I asked him to be a part of the conference because he has this interest in UFOs and he's a scientist. He worked for NASA for 50 years before retiring just recently. And he has some really interesting theories. Even though, he presented for NASA and he worked in with their International Space Station and their shuttle. I mean, he was really high up there.
He worked on Apollo missions, Skylab, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he was very influential in the top echelons of NASA. And but on the side, he investigated UFOs. He actually went to England because he was very interested in crop circles, and he had a really interesting experience there that I'm going to leave for him to share that. And he has some really advanced theories of how he thinks they travel, they communicate. And I think a lot of people will be surprised that somebody that worked for NASA for 50 years actually has these kinds of beliefs. So it'll be very interesting.
I'm going to mention 2 people here too that I know that you're not as familiar with, so I'll just cover them quickly because they're really interesting. Robbie Graham from the UK. A lot of my listeners will probably know that name. You see him on social media. You've probably seen his book, Silver Screen Saucers, which was also a website, stuff that he was doing. He also was the editor. He was the one who created and brought together these papers for UFOs, reframing the debate. A lot of UFO researchers were part of that. I know Greg Bishop, one of the guys who wrote a piece for that, will be coming to the conference to see Robbie. But this is a rare opportunity, something I've been excited about for a while because Robbie's all the way over there in the UK. And none of us who follow him or talk with him have got to meet him. So this will be an opportunity to meet him. And he wants to ruffle some feathers. He wants to, as much as a UK person, UK is kind of like Canada for the most part. Not completely, but, where people are really nice. So if they say, oh, I'm going to shock people and challenge them, they're usually going to be doing it in a very nice way. So, and especially with his accent, he'll probably just sound sophisticated.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to hear that.
So that'll be a lot of fun. The other guy is Dean Alioto, another filmmaker.
And also his Robbie Graham's doppelganger.
Oh, you think they look alike?
I think they both have the chiseled jawline and the glasses.
You keep commenting on these guys. Look.
Really? I hadn't noticed that.
What's up with that? But Dean Alioto has been doing films and TV, like big-time production stuff. And as a student, he made an abduction film, and it did well. But then when he was working for television, he said, hey, I want to do like this first-person abduction thing where they find this found footage of this family that's been abducted. And people are like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? But because he was at the time doing so well, they let him shoot this show. And it was way before Blair Witch, but the same kind of shaky camera style stuff. And it was huge. It was one of their biggest successes. And this giant conspiracy has come about because of this film. And I guess there was even a lecture at one of the UFO Congresses before we took it over, where these UFO researchers speculated about his movie, about his film. They totally got it wrong.
Right, because they thought it was actual real.
They thought it was
documentary,
real abduction or something. So he's going to clarify all of that. Yeah. But talk about how he's really into all this stuff. That's why he did it. So this is going to be a lot of fun for him to talk about the background. But a couple of other people. So Cheryl Costa, I think this is going to be good.
Oh, yeah. She's going to present her new book.
Yeah. So she's got this new book, UFO National Statistics and Trends. She'll be speaking because she is mostly the one who writes about all of this stuff. And, you know, at the Syracuse New Times, I've had her on the show, of course. But as she's talked about in the show, her wife has also been a big part of the book, Linda Costa. So Linda will actually be here as well. And I think that Linda might even come on stage and help with some of the information. But they'll be talking about her new book, UFO National Statistics and Trends. Great book. It's been in the New York Times. It's done write-up. People all over the country have done write-ups on this. So this is really cool. T.L. Keller, I think, was one of the first names that you had mentioned on someone that you wanted to get to talk at the conference. And I've actually been working on getting him to talk at the conference for a while, but he moved to Australia. He's good friends with Jan Harzand, who runs MUFON, but he is an aerospace engineer who's been working on really cool, essentially kind of a rocket scientist type of guy, but has also been into UFOs. So this will be fun to have him speak.
Yeah, another one of the people that I met early on at the actual 2011, I believe, UFO Congress, might have been the 2012. He was a vendor, and I walked up to his table, and he has a great amount of energy and told me all about his book. And I thought, this guy knows what he's talking about. So I'm really excited to see him again and have him present at our conference.
Yeah, he's going to be awesome. And yeah, he'll be talking specifically about, you know, these big, large UFOs that people see that are cigar-shaped and have reported for decades. And he's going to be speculating on, you know, could we create something like that? So that's going to be really interesting.
And just in case anyone doesn't know, he was a computer systems analyst at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, he's an aerospace engineer and graduate of UCLA. So this guy is a smart guy.
Smart dude. Mm-hmm. Another one of our friends, our mutual buddies, is Don Schmidt. And it's kind of funny because Don is extremely serious. I mean, he is a great lecturer. And he gives
with his very low, deep voice.
I can't do it. But
I can't either.
He acts so serious on stage and when he's answering questions and stuff, which is funny because you and I know him as Goofy Don, our buddy who is kind of silly.
Yeah.
And we always have such fun with. So it's going to be great to have him at the conference.
Yeah. So if you see him, go up to him and try and tease him because secretly he likes that.
Yeah, he does. So you may be intimidated because he seems so serious. But he's going to be talking about one of my favorite people, which is Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who I talk about all the time. And Don actually worked with him probably more closely than anybody in the field. And so he'll be talking about, what did J. Allen Hynek really know? Another very fun person is Reverend Michael J. Carter. Did you meet him?
No, I didn't have a chance when he was here at Phoenix MUFON. We did not get to go to that one. So yeah. I've heard so many good things about him. That he's such a positive guy, and I'm really looking forward to hearing him.
Yeah, he's loving. He's a reverend, of course, but he's just a very loving, positive person. And I've had him on the show, a few times, so people have heard him. But just being with him, I've met him a couple times at Contact in the Desert. I haven't spoken there in a while, but I know he still does. And I got to hug him both times. And so it's just going to be really fun.
He's a contactee, later in life contactee.
Yeah, and he talks about he talks about the Bible and UFOs typically, as that's what we've talked about on our show. But his topic for this lecture is going to be the spiritual transformation of the experiencer. And of course, I've talked to several abduction researchers, most recently Dr. Bob Davis, who was at the conference last year, about this aspect, because that's something Dr. Leo Sprinkle had introduced me to, is how spiritual perspectives change for these people who believe they've been abducted. So that'll be interesting.
Yes, he has a master's in divinity, and before that, he was actually a working professional actor.
Yeah, actor.
So a very interesting man. Been on a lot of different TV shows, radio shows. So I think you
got a few minutes.
Okay.
Got a lot of people to go. Dr. Bill Burns is going to be another speaker. Now, I've met him.
Hunters.
What's that?
Oh, UFO Hunters.
Yes. from UFO Hunters. He's going to be speaking, and he's always a hoot. I mean, he's got a lot of energy. He's the type of guy, too. I don't remember if he's using a PowerPoint this year, but often he doesn't. He just gets up there and talks. And super high energy guy, controversial, but he's on Ancient Aliens, of course, like you said.
Former lawyer, correct?
Yeah, he's a former lawyer. And so he's got a law degree and a PhD. So very impressive person. He wrote the bestseller, The Day After Roswell, based off of Colonel Corso, who he worked with. So this is a rare one because he doesn't do a lot of lectures. So another one, I've been trying for years to get him, and I'm so happy that he'll finally be there. And I'm really excited to meet his wife, too, Nancy, who I've spoken with but have not got to meet. But getting to some others, Steve Bassett. Now, you interestingly got to work for...
That's right. Steve needed volunteers for his citizen hearing, so I went out there, and it was kind of chaotic, and I ended up stepping up to the plate and becoming the volunteer coordinator. So I got everything going for the citizen hearing. I didn't get to see much of it because I was busy doing all the behind the scenes thing, but got to know Steve pretty well. Yeah,
so we're both good friends with Steve. So we're happy to bring him back again. He's been out of country, so he hasn't been doing a lot of lectures. So we're lucky to have Steve. We're also lucky to have Linda Moulton Howe, who, of course, has a huge following. People love to hear her talk. So she'll be talking about whistleblowers, revelations, and stunning the crowd as usual, I'm sure.
We have another PhD or a master's, a professor of sociology, Susan Palmer, who's going to talk about
I almost forgot her.
Religious cults and how they begin and how that pertains to the
the Raelian cults and stuff. Of course, she was on the show, so maybe people listen to her, but I loved that interview. I don't know about you guys, so I'm excited to have her. And finally, we've only got a couple minutes left, but...
Well, we just have to say Ben Hansen will be doing a Skywatch. Jennifer Stein will be doing the crop circles. Nick Pope will be there.
I'm going to talk about Nick.
Oh, okay, well...
But Yvonne Smith will be there to do the abductee panel again.
The experiencer panels.
But Nick is related to, of course, our big deal, which is Lou Elizondo. So Karen and I have both been in touch with Lou Elizondo, the man of the hour, the guy who ran the UFO project for the DOD, who is now not really a whistleblower in the sense that he's revealing anything that is classified. In fact, he's very careful not to. However, he's somewhat of a whistleblower because he's bringing to light something that the public was not aware of.
Yeah, he felt so strongly about it that he quit his job to join Tom DeLonge and his new corporation to try and investigate UFOs out in the open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's now part of TTSA, Tom DeLonge's, and others, organization that they've put together. So he's going to be putting together a special video for us. In fact, you guys have been sending us questions to Alejandro at UFOcongress.com. I've been compiling those questions. I just told him yesterday or the day before, I said, I got a lot of questions.
And he said he wants to answer all of them.
Would you let... I was going to say, before I told him that I wanted to warn him. We've got a lot of questions, so please choose the best ones that you feel you could answer it. And what did he say?
He said, I want to answer all the questions.
Yeah, exactly. So real quick, because we're almost out of time, Nick Pope will be on hand. So I'm going to do an overview of how we got here, make sure people have the pertinent information on the whole DOD project. Then we'll be showing the video. And then we've got Nick Pope with us to discuss afterwards some thoughts about the video that Lou shares with us. Why Nick Pope? Because Nick Pope worked for the Ministry of Defense in Britain, doing something very similar to what Elizondo does, investigating UFOs. No, practically nobody. There's very few people who have officially investigated UFOs for their country, especially the UK. It's a big partner. So,
hey, can I talk about one more guy?
No, hurry.
Okay, well, there's this other really hot guy on the website, and his name's Alejandro Rojas, and he's going to be the MC.
Okay, in our last 30 seconds, we have to tell people, get tickets, because at what, the 27th?
The 27th, the tickets prices go up. So get them now so you can save some money.
Exactly. So as usual, I want to thank Caleb Hanks for the opening and close music. I want to thank Systematics for the bumper music. And I also want to thank our good old buddy, Martin, what did I call him? Bing Bang Willis.
Binger.
For joining us with the news. And as usual, I want to thank you, the listener. We'll talk to you soon. Go get your tickets at UFOcongress.com. Go read those stories Martin and I talked about at openminds.tv. But first, go get your tickets at UFOcongress.com. And until next time,